If you love satirical fantasy with a twist on classic Hollywood, then today's book just might be for you. Today I'll be covering Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we're diving into Terry Pratchett's Moving Pictures, which is, of course, one of the Discworld novels. This one is a little harder to say where exactly it fits in with the other Discworld novels, not necessarily chronologically. It is definitely going to take place around the same time as Rincewind. However, the main characters in this are standalone characters as far as I know, and there are some of the important characters that tend to be a little tangential. Of course, you have Death, and you do have Unseen University that both are going to touch upon this novel, but it is by no means a Rincewind novel. It's a little more of its own thing. This is the 10th book in the overall series, and I believe this is part of what is called the Industrial Revolution, which is its own subseries. I don't know how closely tied everything is in that subseries. I'll personally find out as I read more. Of course, the premise of this book, it's called Moving Pictures. That's a reference to the movie business, and it is going to draw upon a lot of tropes, a lot of satire, a lot about Hollywood, which it will refer to as Holywood, and that is, of course, a big part of the humor, the play on words, and the types of things that you are going to see in this novel. Before I get into the synopsis, here's, of course, your quick spoiler warning. I will be covering the main plot points of Moving Pictures, so if you'd like to experience the story fresh, feel free to pause here or check out the book itself and come back. And I have said this before, but as I have been going through so many of the Discworld books, I have decided that giving a synopsis is actually one of the best things I can do, because most of the other things that I have to say about the Discworld books are going to be the same from one to the other. I like all of them so far, although I may like some of them a little more, but they almost all have the same things that I like about them, whether it's the play on words, the puns, the larger commentary on society, class structure, or just any of the things that they tend to critique or make fun of are the things that I appreciate, and that's going to be in every one of the books. This one is included. So that being said, I think the synopsis is one of the key things that I provide in these videos, and that does require that I am a bit of a spoiler, and I will continue to do that. But just to give you an idea, the way that this book plays out is it begins, as usual, with the death of someone. That's a very common beginning for all of these Discworld books. In this case, it is a guy named Deacon Rabobe, or Rabobe. I don't know, always funny names, never entirely sure how to pronounce things, but he, it turns out, was the last member of an ancient order that was tasked with remembering Holywood through ceremonial chants. With his death, there's something that, stirs, some kind of ancient power that is unleashed from the Holywood Hill. Of course, all that referencing Hollywood, and again, the fact that Hollywood's just a geographic location that has gone on to be much more mystical and have a much stronger appeal than just that. Then the book fast forwards a few months, and you discover that the alchemists of Discworld have just invented moving pictures, or they call them clicks. And this new medium quickly attracts an eccentric mix of hopefuls drawn to Holywood like moths to a flame. For example, you have the young Victor Tugelbend, who is an Unseen University dropout. Then you have Theta Ginger Withel, who is this small town girl with big dreams. And of course, they're both representing some of the most famous early actors and actresses, that was just a common trope. A girl from a small town that's just trying to make it big. Of course, that was before there was even a concept of making it big. All that is, a pointed commentary at the culture around Hollywood. But then, of course, you have all of your other characters that aren't necessarily trying to make it big in the movie business, but they are just trying to make a quick buck, which brings us to one of our favorite characters, who I'm not sure if I mentioned him before, but he is called Cut Me Own Throat Dibbler. He's famous for selling sausages that are of questionable quality, and so in a true entrepreneurial spirit, he is going to take his chances to profit by becoming a producer. Holywood is booming, and it is filled with chaotic harmony of humans and dwarfs and alchemists and demons, who are actually the technological backbone of the whole film production. And then you have some really fun characters like Detritus, who is a troll that provides plenty of humor, and it just gets this sense of being incredibly energetic and a somewhat absurd place thriving on the magic of the movies. And again, totally referencing that early golden age of Hollywood. But as Hollywood fame grows, some cracks start to appear in reality itself. Victor stumbles upon Deccan's body and the lost records of the ancient order. So he's discovering, you know, the going back to the first person that had died. And around the same time, Ginger falls under the influence of a mysterious force. And together, they uncover a hidden cinema complete with an eerie portal to the dungeon dimensions. And that's where things get even weirder. During the first screening of Blown Away, a Gone with the Wind parody, right in Ankh-Morpork, a creature from the dungeon dimensions breaks through, and Victor realizes he can use Hollywood's magic to his advantage, especially with a camera pointed at him. So that brings, of course, this showdown that parodies King Kong, complete with the unseen university librarian joining the fray. As you recall, he himself is an orangutan, an ape, not a monkey. Don't make that mistake. But that, of course, should see how you get that comparison between King Kong and this. Again, one of the early major successes of Hollywood. Finally, after the monster's defeat, Victor and the librarian piece together that the dungeon creatures are still lurking, trying to break through their portal, and Ginger, who wasn't actually trying to summon them, she was just trying to keep them out. It turns out she may be connected to Hollywood's ancient high priestess. So Victor and Ginger return to the ancient cinema just in time to witness a golden statue, which is of course a nod to the Oscars, come to life and save the day by defeating the creatures once and for all. A little bit of a Deus Ex Machina in there that seems to sum things up, which is not uncommon for Discworld. So that's a synopsis of what's going on, and of course you can see, if you read it, you'll see all sorts of fun references to the classical age of Hollywood, and you can see how that is being drawn out. But you also, in this book, I feel like get even more fun characters in a way that I don't feel like you have seen quite to this degree in the other books. Certainly you have all sorts of crazy characters. There's a talking dog that I found humorous, but I think he's one of the more controversial characters. I mentioned the troll, Detritus, who I also think to be a very humorous addition. And so you're getting a certain approach to discussing Hollywood and the allure of it and the history of it, and also the somewhat fabricated history of it. All that's being critiqued in a certainly humorous, but I also think in a compelling way. I think the great value of these books is just how sharp the criticism can be by showing them, by mocking it in a way, and I think that is certainly showing through here. So who is this book for? Well, I think it's a great pick for readers who love fantasy with a satirical twist, as I've said in all of my other books like this. And if you're a fan of Pratchett's Discworld, I think that this book has all of the signature elements, the humor and the wit and the quirky characters, and just everything you can expect from his writing. I also think movie buffs, at least movie buffs that can appreciate the satirical elements of this, I think that they would especially enjoy the clever parodies, the pop culture references, and of course Pratchett's take on the glamour and absurdity of showbiz. I think that this book stands alone for the most part in the first in this series, and most of the Discworld books, even if they're part of a sub-series, can still be read on their own. And I think this is a decent one to start with if you're not sure if you're interested in reading more books in this series. This is one that I think his quality of writing is pretty well developed by this point. His concept of Discworld is very well developed by this point, and the fact that it stands alone means that you could pick this up individually if you wanted to and not necessarily be concerned about being caught up in all of the other storylines. But that I would leave up to you. Who do I not think this is for? Well, if you can't deal well with the satire and the humor and this approach to fantasy that certainly incorporates some kind of envisioning of our modern world, but just with a weird twist to it, which a lot of people aren't fans of, I wouldn't quite put it in the realm of steampunk. So if you are thinking everything I described could maybe come off more like a steampunk, then I still don't, I don't think you'd quite enjoy it. I think steampunk has a tendency to take itself a little more seriously than you would see in this book. Or if everything I said about the demons or anything like that, that's not going to appeal to you, then this book's not for you, and that's fine. I would encourage you to either go find another book in the Discworld series to possibly have more appeal to you, or if you know for a fact that the satire of Discworld is just not for you, then, well, this isn't going to be any different. But I would love to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.